Well, who of you have heard the saying, beware the wrath of a patient man? I first heard it from my oldest son, and he was a fan of Benjamin Franklin at that time when he was junior, senior in high school. And he shared that saying, so I had it in my head that it came from Ben Franklin. Ben Franklin perhaps used it, but I guess originally, beware the fury of a patient man came from 1680s from John Dryden, evidently a poet. I didn't know the name, but I had to look it up. I was double checking if I remembered right, and I guess I remembered incorrectly. But I have kind of reached that point, and my children kind of joked at me with that because, I tend to be somewhat patient, but when enough is enough, enough is enough. And that's where I'm at this week on our little playground place out there where you have come with me off and on. I've reached a point where enough is enough. We have quite a number of rabbits around that place. I enjoy seeing them around, and I've kind of made an agreement with them. If you'll stay away from the house, you're good. Don't be burrowing underneath the deck or the porch or underneath the house. That's the limit. If you stay away from the house, you can be in the garage, you can be in the barn, you can be in the woodshed, you can be around the shed where the cows are at, in the wood pile. I don't care, make yourself happy, have at it, but stay away from the house. Well, they broke that agreement this spring, and they seem to do it kind of regularly. They did it last year as well, so I had to reduce the number of rabbits because they were trying to get underneath the house. And so I thought we had this agreement reestablished. Well, in the last couple of summers, we have been trying to establish a growth or a small hedge of lilacs. It is dry country out there. There pretty much are no trees around. There are some shrubs, some chokecherries, some juniper, some red cedars, but they're pretty sparse. Well, lilacs are supposed to be fairly drought resistant, and we have a lot of lilacs around our house in town. So I have been taking some small little plants and transplanting them out there, trying to get them going. And things were looking pretty good. We had a nice wet spring this spring, and they were clumbing along pretty well. Until the rabbits got loose and they're starting to eat my lilacs, the little rascals. Our cows got out one time, and I went out one morning, and they were in the area where the pole barn and the house is, and when they were going around picking at, like they do, they clipped a couple of my lilacs as well. So I can't hardly blame them for that. They pushed down the gate, and I had to fix it, and so they're out of there. But the rabbits are continuing to be enough, and I have about reached the end of my patience with those little rascals. So I'm going to make some cages, try to protect my lilacs. So I have a roll of wire here that I've had in the past. I had a real problem behind the shop with cats and skunks, so I bought a roll of this, and I made some live traps to relocate some of those rascals. It is 3 foot tall. The spacings in the wiring are 1 inch wide by 2 inch deep, so I think this will work. I'm going to make some cylindrical cages out of this, and I'll cut them in half. 1.5 foot will be enough to keep the rabbits away from chewing the bark, and they're killing my trees. And I also have some bars that came off of a window actually behind that building that I want to put this gift shop and museum into. And I just couldn't haul these through the scrap iron. Surprise, surprise. I'm a pack rat and says, I just might need that someday. Well, these have 1/2 inch rods in them, and they're welded on the bottom. They have this in the center, but it's not welded. And they just come down to a point. Well, I'm just going to cut all these off, slide this out, cut them in half, and these will work for the stakes for my cages to keep those rabbits off. You know, I may not always be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but it doesn't take too long working on your knees on this concrete floor to figure out there's got to be a better way. So that's what I have this table saw for, right? It's my bench. Second thing I learned is I really like Leathermans. I have had one for probably 30, 35 years, if not longer. I don't really know. But when you do repeated work like this, because of the nature of the beast, they are really hard on the hands. So a glove really helps. And I also noticed on the first one that I bent these wires up the other direction, and it had a tendency to break it free from the vertical wires. So I changed that as well and started bending them the other direction, and they haven't been disconnecting like they did on the first one. So that's a change I made as well. Part of the learning process. So I cut these in the middle of these squares, so I have these little prongs that I'll actually push down into the dirt, help them stabilize that a little more. So in total, I have 20 of these cages made. So if I put 2 stakes for every cage, it means I need to have 40 stakes. Well, this is the row that I'm trying to get a few lilacs to grow. Some of them are surviving pretty well. Some of them are maybe not quite so well. I'll show you what's kind of happened here as we go through some of this lineup. But these are the trees I'd like to save. Well, this is the west side of my pole barn, and I've got 4 out here. And then right up close to the barn, I've got a couple that I was hoping would benefit from the runoff of the roof of this barn. So the one that's the furthest west is not doing too bad. You can see that it's been clipped off either by the cows or maybe by passing by a deer. Something like so maybe. And then about every 6 feet apart, next one up is, I've got one here that so far has survived the onslaught of both the rabbits and the cows. But then the next one up has been trimmed off by the rabbits. You can see where it's just been clipped off. But there are still signs of life down here at the base. So I think the root system is still active. So I want to keep this one protected as well. And this next one up was really a nice little bush. Had a nice tall top to it, but it's been clipped right off. So it's coming back from the base, and I want to protect this one. This is right down where the rabbits can chew right on that, and I want to prevent that. So this one is on what would be the southwest side of the barn. It had a nice stem, it got chewed off, but again, the base is trying to stay alive. This is the one that gets water off of the roof line when it does rain, which is not very often this summer. And this next one is kind of got abused here. It's actually kind of been broken. I'm not sure if this part will survive, but again, there's life at the base, so I want to preserve that possibility of life. Because when they get this low, they're just prime candidates for the rabbits. The next ones up are these two. This one I planted last summer. This one I planted this summer. And they were both about so tall, doing really well, until the rabbits came in and clipped them both off. So these are far enough apart that I'm going to protect them individually, but I have a little hole here that I water the two of them at once. And the demise of these have been completely due to the rabbits. And these are now on the south and east side of my pole barn. I've got one here that's doing pretty well. This was a last summer transplant. Part of it has died, but this main stem is doing pretty well. But what I'm finding is that the rabbits come in and just chew the bark off of these lower stems, and then that kills the upper part of the tree. I'm going to try to keep this from happening. But you can see, besides the growth up high, there's also one trying to come down here from the base. So I want to protect that as well. So this next one doesn't look too good here at all. I didn't see much life in it in all summer. But I transplanted one next to it, and it was doing really well till it got clipped off. It's a little on the peaked side. So I'll see if I can't give that half a chance. So this next one, again, it's got a good portion of it that's not too healthy. I might just take some of that off. But it's got a good chance trying down here at the bottom besides what's on top here. I'm going to try to preserve that one. So this one is probably the one that's doing the best. It was one of the larger transplants, and it really struggled last summer when I put it in here. But this summer it has taken off pretty well. It has a nice growth on the bottom here. There's a little one that's trying to come on. This one I would like to save. Got a few that are just really struggling. There was signs of life earlier this spring, but they've gone pretty downhill. I don't know if they've been clipped off or what. I'm going to see how many cages I have. If I have enough, I'll come back and cover these, but this one doesn't look too hopeful. This one was doing well. You can see where it got clipped off. This side was dead, but there was life on this one. There might be a little sign of life right here. Maybe I'll protect that one. I've got one here that's actually two lilacs.
This was this spring, this was last spring. This one doesn't look too healthy, but there is sign of life here. I've been leaving these dead stems just because it gives me a point of reference to tell me where the live bases are. So I've got life here, I have life there. See if I can't protect both of those. So this one here is an example where the rabbits have really been working this one over. It had life on it decent. You can see where the leaves were, but because they're basically girdling this tree, it's killing the top of this as well. All these leaves are just curling up and drying. I don't know if I can save this, and probably not. But if I have enough, I'll come back and put a cage around this one. This is another case where they've been chewing on it. This one doesn't show much signs of life. This next one is trying to hang in there, but you can see it's been chewed on pretty aggressively. They really worked this bark over. This section is pretty bad. This one is about dead. I think I'll try to save just this center one here. The top is still showing signs of life. Maybe I can give it some hope. If I can prevent them from keeping on chewing, maybe I can give this a little bit of a possibility for surviving. Well, this one has really struggled. Maybe a shot in the dark for this one. So this last one was a really nice lilac tree. You can see how terrible chewed up it is. It was probably a foot to 16 inches tall, and they totally destroyed this plant. This is on the end of the whole row of these lilac bushes. So far out of all these cages that I built, I have 16 of them used. 6 were on the west side of the pole barn. The other 10 are down this lineup, and I had to skip those that were dead. But I have 4 over by the house that I've saved the last cages for. Some of those have been clipped off as well, but I think all of them show signs of life. So at one time, all 4 of these looked really nice. I have one there, there's one there, one here, and one here. They've all been brutally abused by the rabbits. This one here was clipped off when the cows got loose and got into this building area. But they all show signs of life. The first one that I planted is this one, which was a chokecherry bush, and it didn't do well at all. So I came alongside and I planted 2 lilacs that were in kind of one clump. One is surviving here, it's been clipped off, and the other one is surviving here. And I'd like to preserve that to give them every chance we can that they continue to make it. And the biggest factor in these has been the rabbits. The second one in the lineup isn't totally the fault of the rabbits. This was in more default of the cows. You see where it's been clipped off. This one here was broken off. This is the chokecherry that came in here initially, and it didn't survive at all. But you can see there is still life in here. This is the one the cows clipped off. This next one in the lineup is again the result of the rabbits. This one is a chokecherry. You can see this speckled stem here, and it's trying to make it here at the very top. The other parts were clipped off, so So I'm trying to give that every chance it can have. And then lastly is this one. I had a plant, I think that's a bindweed. Anyway, I had one here. There's a little hint. I don't know if that'll make it or not. But this plant here is trying to make it. And that's the one I'm going to try to protect. When it gets down to this level, it's just easy picking for those rabbits. So this is where I'm hoping that a couple stakes in here will keep these from being pushed around too easily. And I may bring zip ties out to actually fasten these to the stakes. I didn't bring any with me right now, but if I fasten that there, that should help these from getting bumped over. So that's been on my agenda for the last couple months, trying to get these protected, but I've been so tied up in the shop that I haven't got it done. This was a good time to get this done. So it's not anything really rocket science, it's just trying to establish something that isn't naturally here. Whether it'll work or not, I don't know. But all these come off of seedlings from our lilac trees in town at our house. So the price is right. It's just worth the effort to try to keep them going. So when it gets really dry like it's been this summer, I come out and I do water them, try to get them established. We'll see how it goes. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks for watching.